Hi, Laura, Josh, and Jordan. It's Simon Dawkins from Red Kite. As promised, I've just put together a brief video to show you a bit of an overview of how the business simulation Ready for Business runs. So, um, we get people in teams, up to 5 competing teams. So each team will be running their own property consultancy. And in each team, it works really well if we have up to 5 people. So on the top end, that's 25 delegates. We can run it for less delegates and less teams. Each team on their table will have a game board, and I'll show you that a bit larger in a moment. They've also got a receivables area because obviously at the end of the trading period, they're going to be billing some clients, but they won't receive some of the money for 30, 60, 90, and perhaps later days. And they've also got this cash area which we pile a lot of coins on. We use roulette chips to represent cash that they start with. So in terms of the process, we start trading here. They're going to be spending money on business development, and the white boxes represent information, and mostly they're going to be costs that they're going to be paying out of their cash balance in the first trading quarter. So they spend on business development to try and get some clients and get some work. They start with some finance, total of 600,000. Some of it is a loan and there's an interest rate they've got to pay. They also start with the head count, which we can change, but based on the head count I build in for the first trading quarter, they've got to pay 50,000 of rent, 25,000 of other overheads, light, heat, etc. And also they've got their staffing costs, got some training costs, and they've got salaries. And I show them as we go around the trading period here, around this ellipse, where all of those numbers have come from. Now that trading ellipse represents 3 months of trading. So we've got a 3-month trading cycle. I basically facilitate and explain all of their processes that they're going to go through running their new firm in trading quarter 1 all the way round. And then in quarter 2, they make decisions for themselves in competition with my guidance, and also in quarter 3. And hopefully also we get a quarter 4 done. And I can take you through what we do at the end of the 4 quarters as well. So first thing they do is resource planning. So how many fee earners have they got? How much fee earning time is available? So we set a sort of target number of hours for utilization purposes. Then they spend money on business development. I dictate how much they spend here, 130,000 in the first trading quarter. Admittedly, some of that possibly would be the website and business cards and the like. They trade in the Montague Evans dollar. After they've spent an amount on business development, they then pitch for work. Now, in the first trading quarter, they're all spending the same amount on business development. So they're all pitching for the same jobs. They pitch for 3 jobs. I show them where the hours have come from because they've got hours of work at different levels of fee earner. From those, I've built in charge out rates, and we can build yours in if you want to. And from that, I've built up a sort of target price at full charge out rates. But then we talk about discounting, we talk about value pricing. They win work. Even once they've won the work, they've then got to plan the work to see if they've got the right amount. They've got too much, in which case, how will they deal with that? Or they've got too little, and therefore that will come through in their financial performance. Because we've got a 3-month trading cycle, end of month 1, they pay salaries, pay interest to the banks on the bank loan. The 30 days isn't relevant yet, although we're at the end of the first 30-day trading period. That's where some of their clients that they will bill at the end of the quarter will pay cash. Well, they don't bill here. So interim billing in this model is quarterly. They've already got they haven't got an overdraft yet. They can take overdraft later. They've got a loan. End of month 2, pay salaries, pay rent. 60 days in. Well, when they do bill, 60 days in at this point is where some of their clients will pay. Other overheads, light, heat, etc., 25 grand. Salaries again, quarter 3. Training and development based on headcount. The first key decision they make at the end of quarter 1 is, do they want to recruit staff? Now, often they're pretty prudent, but they can recruit more fee earners if they want. If they do recruit more fee earners, it might precipitate more partners, and more support staff as well. So we're trying to show the disproportionate increase in costs if they recruit more people. It's not just salaries, obviously. Bad debts later on when they're billing, haven't billed anything yet. 90 days in, 3 months in, no cash to receive yet, we haven't billed. So then, importantly, they raise bills. Now, on some of the work, it will tell them whether they can bill or whether they're not allowed to bill, given the nature of the work. So some of the jobs are quite quick. They only take a quarter. Other jobs will take perhaps 2 quarters or more to complete. So they raise bills where they can, and they write an amount in here. They also look at any jobs where they cannot bill. Perhaps the client said, look, you can't raise a bill until the job's complete. And any work in progress, any work on the clock based on timesheets that they haven't billed goes in here. Based on the amount that they have billed in here, we then say, well, when are you going to receive the money? Now, I've built in, you'll see here, a profile, an initial profile. And I'll say to them, you've spoken to a friend of yours who's already in business running a property consultancy, and you've said to them, well, when do you typically find that you receive money? And in this initial model, 10% of clients billed pay after 30 days, 30% pay after 60 days. Then in the long tail, 20% pay after 120 days. So they populate these numbers here based on what they've billed. Then what we can do is review their financial performance. So at the end of the quarter, they'll produce a profit and loss account. I show them the first time through what that looks like and then help them thereafter. But also we'll look to see how much cash they've got left on that cash laminate we've just spoken about. We'll also record some other numbers as well. And then we start trading quarter two. Now that's obviously a very sort of a zippy way through quarter one, but I guide them all the way through there. Each trading quarter typically takes about an hour. The second trading quarter, they decide how much to spend on BD. There is a minimum, but there's no upper limit. But what I'm going to do in quarter two is use the amount they've spent on BD. I get them all to shout that out. If they are spending, let's say, 100, they would go record it here, take 100 out of their cash pile, and any amount spent in quarter one, when they spent 130,000 on BD, it would have gone just here as a pile of coins. When they've spent on salaries, pile of coins goes on there. When they pay for salaries again, pile of coins. So the idea is it reduces the cash available, but it also increases the expenditures here, which they use when working out their costs. So if I take you to what it could like at the end of first trading quarter, so it could be they build this amount, 10% of that is 37, 30% is this amount here. So this will be their receivables profile to receive in the future. So as they trade in quarter two, hopefully as they get 30 days through, they'll receive all of that 37,000 there. As they trade in quarter two to the 60 days, hopefully they'll receive all of that 110,000 there. But again, based upon sort of bad debt experience, which we're building as well. They'll have seen the impacts of discounting when they've been pricing work. So all those sort of typical things, getting your time on the timesheet, impacts of bad debts and late receipt of cash, offering discounts, all of those issues come through pretty quickly. And therefore, what they would do if this were the end of trading quarter one, they will then at this stage say, okay, we've billed 365, we haven't billed 160. They'll have a pile of coins just on here to represent that 130. So deliberately, the coins they've spent are on there as a visual. They'll have spent on salaries here, which will be that 67. Round here, they will have spent salaries again of 67,000. So that'll be more cash out of their cash pile, paid rent of 50,000, etc. So what we then do is we use this laminate here, which was on that first slide, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. And we actually get them to put coins, fresh coins, not from their cash pile. So they've got a stash of coins here, here, and here. And deliberately, it's a big visual. So they can't get at this money until they do trade 30 days in, 60 days in, 90 days in. But we find it's a really good visual. And they go, blimey, we've got a lot of money here, but we haven't received it. So that's going to help them calculate their profit figure, but it's going to have a delayed impact on their cash. So in terms of computation of the profit they've achieved at the end of the first quarter, they have a team booklet. One page of the team booklet they use is the profit and loss account for quarter one. They go back to the game board and record here that they've billed 365. Other work done that they haven't billed is 160. So in total, in the first quarter, under my tutelage, if you like, they've billed, they've done just over 500,000 of work. And then a bit further down the same page, they go to the amounts of money they've spent. So they go to that business development step number 2, remind themselves they paid 130,000, record it here. And then those coins, which are on step 2, aren't required. They can put those back into a spare pot. Record all their expenses, looking around the laminate, the ellipse. They've spent a total of 429. So if we've got 5 of work, subtract 429 of costs, they've actually made a 96,000 profit. We then get them to compute what that profit margin is. So the profit margin here, 96 divided by 525, it turns out to be about 18%, which is obviously about half of your 36% in your most recent report and accounts. So what I do is modify the numbers to make sure they do reflect what happens in your world. And if Josh and Jordan, one of you, both of you, and you, Laura, as well, if you want to be involved and come along, certainly if Josh, Jordan, you were perhaps there, if there are any questions thrown at me which I can't be expected to answer, so Montague Evans related questions, you could perhaps say that, yeah, we have made 36%, this is the management target, this is what we're also trying to achieve. But what we're basically trying to get them to do at the end of Q1 is understand how they're running their business and what key financial outputs there will be. In terms of financial outputs, they've got this, I always sell this as a sort of a bit of a presentation, and it's snapshot of numbers from their Q1 management accounts. So 525 of work done, 96k of profit, and we get them to also write in there their profit margin. But although we've looked at profit and loss account items, we also want them to be aware of the fact that their cash has gone down. Now, deliberately here, cash will have gone down because they've spent a lot of money. Yes, they've billed some clients, but they've not received much money in. They haven't had to borrow in the form of overdraft yet, but they probably will in Q2 just to keep the business going. They'll record the amount that they have billed and not received. They'll record the 160 of WIP. If they couldn't do any time, I've basically designed it in Q1 so they can do all of the jobs by getting some of their fee earners to do a little bit of extra effort over and above the 100% utilization hours. If later on they win too much work and they have to delay work, that would be taken into account here. They record the number of hours, and not only does their relative BD spend then in Q2, Q3 onwards dictate which jobs they can pitch for, also it's based on goodwill or loss of goodwill if they've been delaying work for existing clients. What we then do at the very end of the session, right at the end of the 4 trading quarters, we need about half an hour at the end there, so that I can gather in all of the data. So total value work done for all 4 quarters. I'll sum that up and write it in here. Total profit made, and then their cash, bank finance, which by then probably would include overdraft at the end. And then we show them a slide, and this was from a recent delivery with a law firm. Got their firm names that they come up with. I've recorded and show them here the total value of the work they've done, turnover, total profit made. So for this firm at the top, 741, and I'll have divided that by their 2073 to show they've got a 36% margin. Then we can ask them, who do they think's been the most successful? So one thing they should be looking at are these profit and loss account numbers here. And just looking at this data, it's probably H&T, isn't it, at the moment, with a 48% margin at this stage. So $100 of work, $48 of profit on average throughout the trading period. But also we get them to look at how much cash they've got. Now, again, it's quite rare that you get one team wins and they sort of wipe the floor with everybody else. Often it's this team on profit, that team in terms of cash, this team on the grounds that they're the only one who haven't disappointed their clients in terms of work delayed. But here, these guys look like they've got a lot less cash. They've got about 400,000 cash. These guys here have got about 800,000, but they've got a 300 loan. They haven't got any loan finance. So these guys seem to have the largest loan. They actually start with a loan of 300. So at least they've managed to pay off any overdrafts. They've got an 85 overdraft. They've got a 140 overdraft. But with that being 440, what I'd say is, well, if these guys have that same high amount there, 440, how much cash would they have? And it's going to be similar to this. So we get them to think through the data, get them to actually then vote for who they think's been the most successful. Then ask them what they've learned from it. And then ask them if there are any sort of action points. And that's the opportunity at the end of the session then for somebody from finance to say, okay, this is how it works here. Have you got any questions? That hopefully is a quick cook's tour. And this video therefore won't take up too much of your time. I'll send this in an email to you. As I put in the email earlier, the previous email with the PDF document, if you want to go through this a bit more slowly, on a team session, or if you've got any questions, please let me know, and I'll stop the recording now and then send it down to you. Thanks. Bye.